I'm not like cooperating very well, and I don't want any surprises. Certainly not this one. I don't like storms, and I'm not getting out the storm for this. What? That was just kind of shocking and a little bit overwhelming, very surprising. So I come in on a Tuesday night. I've had the car for almost a week and a half at that point, the new Honda CR-V from our local Honda dealership here in the Mount Juliet area. I am sitting down to eat dinner. We just put it on the table. George hadn't even sat down yet. And he got a phone call, and it was the Honda dealership, and they said, we're coming to swap cars with you. And George said, hang on, I have not told my wife about this yet. Apparently, they had called him earlier in the day and said, we sold you the wrong car. We sold you the wrong car, and we need you to come in and do the paperwork for the right car, or we can swap the car. And George had told them, let me talk to my wife when she gets home and I'll call you back. Well, he hadn't had time to talk to me yet because he let me get through my routine. You know, on Tuesdays, I have basically about an hour, maybe hour and a half of quiet time that I work on videos. And that's like my hour. So he was respecting that. I wasn't demanding that. He just knows that I like to have that, and he likes to give me that little bit of time before we have dinner. So he hadn't even talked to me about it yet. So I'm just having to make a split decision. Are we gonna have to go in the next night and do paperwork? And gosh, the first time when we bought the car, it took 2.5 hours to get everything done and out of there. And I'm thinking, you know, I wasn't really planning on that. If you know me, you know how I am about my time. I've got my time blocked out, and I know what I'm doing for pretty much every minute of the day, and I don't want any surprises. Certainly not this one. So the guy's like, well, we can just swap the car with you. And it kind of made me panic. It's like, I don't want to swap cars. I've already bonded with this other car. I've already programmed everything like I wanted it, which I mean, really wasn't much, like the radio stations. But you know, it's like, no. And would the new car be the same color and everything be exact? So I told the guy, let me think about it. You know, you're just calling me out of the blue, and I haven't even had time to process this yet. And they're like, well, we really have to do something about this, and we really want to do it tonight. And it was storming outside. It's like, I told the guy, I said, well, it's storming. And he's like, well, I can bring it to work to you tomorrow and we can swap. And George was in the background going, no, I think he wanted to be there to make sure everything was on the up and up. So here I was driving around in a car that had a serial number that was not really my car, but it was the car I test drove. It was the car I liked. It was the car I'd bonded with. And George had called the insurance and had insured another car that was sitting on their lot that I wasn't driving. It was like, what? Oh my gosh. So the guy said, I just told him, I said, let's do this tomorrow night. It's about to storm. I don't like storms, and I'm not getting out the storm for this. He's like, oh, we'll bring it to you. And it's like, well, I'm still not going outside in the storm in this. It's like, these guys have surprised me. I'm not like cooperating very well. I just hadn't had time to process it. I would have eventually come around and figured it out, but you know, I really needed to sleep on it, you know? So anyway, they're like, no, we got to come do this tonight. We'll give you free gas. And I just told them, I said, okay, but I want to inspect every inch of that car, because if it's not the same color, if it doesn't have everything in it that is exactly the same, then we're going to have to redo the paperwork. So the guy comes over and George backs my car out of the garage. I lost it, y'all. I lost it. And when I say I lost it, I cried. It's like they're taking my car away. I'm almost about to cry now thinking about it. I don't know why I was so attached to it, but you know how you are when you get a new car? It was like getting a dog and then somebody, you know, you're picking a dog from the litter and you get home and bond with it for a week and a half, and then somebody calls or shows up and takes your dog away and gives you a different one instead. It was kind of like that, you know, and I know cars are inanimate, but I really bonded with that car. My feelings were in that car. My feelings rode away with that car. And there this new car sat. It was the same color. I opened it up and I'm thinking, was my other car interior charcoal or was it black? 'Cause I don't really like black. I think the other one might have been charcoal. George swears up and down the other one was black. I don't know. It was just so noticeably black. And when I looked back in the video, I really think the other one was a little more charcoal. Even George said, yeah, it does kind of look gray. And I'm thinking, great. You know, I should have done the paperwork on the other car, but I'll let it go. And I'm trying to bond with this car. I mean, I guess we've bonded. I like it. It's a new car. I'm trying to understand my feelings. I should want to have a new car. Another new car doesn't have 700 miles on it already. It goes back to 0 now because you got a different new car. And I got another free thing of gas. I should be happy about that. And the headrest in the back was actually smaller, which I can see out the mirror better. But I don't know. It was just, it really upset me. It really upset me that that happened. And I told the guy when he left, I said, this new car, you know, I really haven't test drove this. I don't even know if I like it or not. And he gave me pause, like, oh yeah, you hadn't, you know. And he said, well, if there's anything wrong with it, just call me. I don't know. I don't really know what happened. I know that when we walked in that day in the dealership, there were 2 guys. One was new. When we originally arrived, George and I both had separate cars and you could see them working. You take that one, and I'll take this one. The one guy was coaching the other. And I saw that happen and I thought they're going to be shocked because there's not 2 people wanting to buy a car. There's 1 couple wanting to buy a car. The new guy ended up with us and he started us out. And then once we test drove it and we wanted the car, the more experienced guy got involved. I don't really know who dropped the ball, but they wrote up the wrong car. They wrote up the wrong serial number in our paperwork. So now I have the right car. It was not really my car that I picked out. It's a different car. And that's what bothers me. That is what bothers me. I probably should have gone in and done the paperwork, but you know, it just seemed like a lot of trouble. So I went with the swap. I went with the free gas and probably a darker interior, but you know, it's okay. I'm dealing with it. The Honda dealership sold us the wrong car. The experience was a nice one in the shop, you know, when we originally bought the car. Everybody was really nice, and I'm sure it was just an honest mistake. It's kind of an embarrassing mistake for them. It's one that should not ever happen because there's just like so many different ways to put in place some things to ensure that that never happened. I mean, that is just like an easy thing that should just never happen. But people make mistakes. I realize that. And I don't know if it was the new guy or I imagine it was because, you know how when one person starts something and somebody else takes over, things get dropped. And that's probably what happened. It didn't do my heart any favors. And I don't know, it just kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, I really love Honda and I love the new car. I think some of my feelings are riding around still with that other car. And every time I see another 24 Honda that's white that looks like mine, I wonder if that's my car. And I feel like I'm driving somebody else's car. I'm getting over it. It's just another one of those things that we have to go through. But anyway, that's my story of how Music City Honda and Mount Juliet sold me the wrong car. I'm sure they didn't mean to, and I don't want anyone to be negative or not to go buy a car from them. I think they're really good people. I wish it hadn't happened. I wish it hadn't happened, and I'm sharing my story. I guess the whole point of this is if you do buy a car, just make sure that your paperwork serial number matches what's on your car and maybe avoid that scenario. That scenario should never happen. And I'm glad they noticed it earlier on instead of later on when something happened and we realized the insurance really isn't covering the car. You know, we're covering some car sitting on the lot over there. Interesting times. We live in interesting times, folks. And I know this has probably happened before, and shame on them for not having some kind of program in place to ensure that does not happen again. I know in manufacturing, when something goes wrong, even in administrative, even in like when I do things, I mean, I make mistakes, but when I make a mistake, I want to know what happened so that I can fix it to where that never happens again. And I'm pretty good at that, and I have high expectations of others being good at that because I believe in process improvement. And that sucked, quite frankly, that happened. But again, mistakes happen. I'm sure they're nice people. I make mistakes too. I'm not trying to tell people not to go buy a Honda. I think that's fine. I think we just have a responsibility. We can't just assume that we've been sold the car we test drove. There you go. You got to look out for yourself. You can't, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't go down this road, but you know, it's just like my health care. No doctor is going to be able to figure out things for me. I've seen that. I have seen that. So you really have to be looking out for yourself in just every aspect of life. And buying a car is no exception. So there you have it. There's my story. Just wanted to provide this in a separate video because my other videos get so long. And I thought, why don't I just do a little separate midweek video just to kind of give you that story. Anybody who wants to watch it can. If you don't care, just flick off of it. But I know some of you do care. So that's my story, and I'm totally happy with the Honda. Totally grateful for having a new car, so I don't want to sound ungrateful at all because that would be wrong if anyone thought that. I'm very grateful for it, but they did, in fact, sell me the wrong car, and it could have been a really, really bad situation down the road. So if you get a new car, check that serial number. Have a good day, guys.